Thank you, friends. On behalf of the family, I want to thank everybody for joining us here in the chapel. For those who are watching online, thank you as well. Just a gentle reminder before we begin our service, if we could all please take a moment to make sure our phones are off, or at least on silent, not to disturb the sacred service. Officiating our service today is Rabbi Barry Axler.
At the end of life, I think the measure of success is not how much you've got, but how much you've given. Not how much you've earned, but how much you've returned. And not how much you've won, but how much you've done. All of us know that Alan gave, he returned, and he did for so many. It has been said that what you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. He is gone, and you can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind and be empty and turn your back. Or you could do what he would want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. At times like this, words fail us, and so we turn to our Psalms. And if you can, please join me in your pamphlets in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepares a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anoints my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord. A life well lived cannot be diminished by death. The beauty, the guidance, and the inspiration it gave us will shine on as brightly as ever. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal, but life leaves a memory no one can steal. There's a beautiful verse in the play Wicked that I think has importance for us today. I know we are who we are today because we knew you, and because we knew you, we are changed forever. In describing the passing of our first matriarch, Sarah, or the biblical figure Joseph, the Bible says that Sarah lived to be 127 years old, and Joseph lived to be 110 years old. And what the Bible doesn't say is that Sarah died or that Joseph died, but that Sarah lived and Joseph lived, underscoring that what is most important in life is how we live and not how we die. Alan lived a wonderful life of love for his wife, Ava, whom he always said it was his goal to make Ava happy. He lived a wonderful life of love for his children, Jodi, Robert and Alyssa, Renee and Joe. A wonderful life of love for his grandchildren, Jackson and Ryan, Blair and Blake, whom he said that he was always loyal to his children and his grandchildren, who meant the world to him. A life of love for his sister-in-law, Betsy, for his nieces and nephews, for his extended family, and many friends. Our tradition teaches us that when we pass on, we leave behind only two things. And they are two Hebrew words that not only sound alike, but they come from the same root. One is Yerusha, and the other is Morasha. Now, Yerusha are your material assets. They're your bank accounts or your real estate holdings or your stocks and bonds. But Morasha is the essence of who you are the characteristics about yourself that you leave behind for family and friends who love you and who will miss you. I don't know, nor do I care to know, what Alan's Yerusha was. But after spending time with Ava, I can tell you what his Morasha was. It was an unconditional love for his family. It was a reaching out and caring for others. And it was an incredible zest for life. You know, we're all familiar with the very first words in the Bible. Let there be light, and there was light. But it wasn't until day 4 that God creates the sun and the moon. So if God creates the sun and the moon on day 4, what was this light that the Bible was talking about in the very first sentences? So I believe it was a spiritual light. It was the light of God. And since the world wasn't complete, God put that light into each and every one of us. And when we lead good lives, and when we care for others, that light shines forth and makes this world better. Every single person here knew that Alan had that light. And when it shone forth and hit you, it inspired you to do better and to be better. On the long drive up from the city this morning, 2 songs came over the radio that touched me for this service today. The first was a hit song by James Taylor, How Sweet It Is to Being Loved by You. How sweet it was for all of you to be loved by Alan. And the second song was a 1960s hit song by Burt Bacharach and Hal David, and sung by Dionne Warwick. Always something there to remind me. Each of us, each of you, will always have something there to remind you of Alan. For as the song concludes, for how can I forget you when there is always something there to remind me? I was born to love you, and I will never be free because you'll always be a part of me. I was very moved by all of the things that Ava shared with me about Alan. So I'd like to share with you a very personal and special poem whose message I know Alan would have embraced. It's entitled, If I Knew. If I knew it would be the last time that I'd see you fall asleep, I would tuck you in more tightly, and I'd pray the Lord your soul to keep. If I knew it would be the last time that I'd see you walk out the door, I'd give you a hug and a kiss, and I'd call you back for one more. If I knew it would be the last time that I'd hear your voice lifted up in praise, I would videotape each action and word so I could play them back day after day. If I knew it would be the last time I would be there to share your day, I would not say you'll have so many more that you can let just this one slip away. I would not think that there's always tomorrow to make up for an oversight and that we always get a second chance to make everything just right. So just in case today is all I get, I'd like to say how much I love you, and I hope that we never forget that tomorrow is not promised to anyone, young or old alike, and today may be the last chance that you get to hold someone tight. So if you're waiting for tomorrow, why not do it today? For if tomorrow never comes, you'll surely regret the day that you didn't take the extra time for a smile, a hug, or a kiss, and you were too busy to grant someone what turned out to be their one last wish. So hold your loved one close today and whisper in their ear, and tell them how much you love them and that you'll always hold them dear. And take time to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, or it's okay. And if tomorrow never comes, you'll have no regrets about today. Alan's passing cannot diminish the important ways that he touched your lives, and your grief cannot take away the happiness that you shared together. In your memories of him, may you find comfort. In your family and friends, may you find love. And in your hearts, may you find the strength to help you through this very difficult time. So may the memory of Alan always be a blessing to us. May it inspire us to do better and to be better. And in his honor, may God grant you comfort and peace in this very difficult time. Amen. It is now my honor to call upon Alan's son, Robert, to share some memories with us.
Hi, everyone. I'm sure if Dad were here, he would tell me, don't mess up the closing argument right about now. Before I talk about my dad, however, I do want to thank every one of you who's here in this room, everybody who's streaming remotely, for being a part of this service and a part of our lives. I want to pay a very special thanks to those of you who flew in at great personal expense to honor my father, to honor our family. Sharing today with us means more than we could ever possibly express, and I know my dad would have been deeply touched by all of your efforts. We love and we thank you with all our hearts. Now about my dad. Now it might be obvious to say, but my dad was one of the most powerful influences in shaping who I am today. Setting aside the features that he genetically pre-installed in me, height, loud voice, big feet, Jewish stomach, my dad modeled for me a vision and approach to the world that was marked by curiosity, excellence, hard work, perseverance, and outsized aspirations. It can hardly be chalked up to coincidence that I became a patent trial lawyer just like him. While it's fair to say, for those of you who know us, that his working style and mine were very different from one another, there's no doubt that we shared a love of tackling problems, telling stories, and giving speeches. But I left the singing exclusively to him. Dad instilled in me a fierce love of competition. He loved to compete in sports, in cards, in the law, really in everything. He recently told me, and I didn't know this before, that it was his desire to compete that led him to become a lawyer. After all, in what other career do you get to compete against a very clear adversary, and more often than not, you get a winner and you get a loser? He craved it, he loved it, and so do I. After he retired, he turned his love of competing to golf and to investing. It was pretty clear that he was in a constant competition to best himself with a better swing, a more complete round, or a more clever trading approach that nobody else in his view had ever figured out. He was always looking for an edge. Over the past 30 years, I probably played tennis and golf with him more than 200 times, truly. And I can tell you with great assurance that I only ever beat him in any sport a grand total of 7 times. And yes, I counted because they were that few. He was not a man who would willingly lose, not even to his own son. More importantly, and most importantly, Dad instilled in me a dedication and a devotion to family. Family really was his North Star. He didn't always have the right answers or the right approach. God knows I wished he and I had approached many moments in our relationship differently. But one thing is certain, he was always there, he always showed up. Even when he didn't know exactly how to express himself, Dad always made clear that he was proud of me, proud of all of the members of his family. 3 days before he died, my dad and I had a nice conversation in the hospital. He reminisced a lot about growing up, about college, about practicing law, and he reminded me of a sort of poem that I wrote for him on his 65th birthday. He asked that I read it today. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read what I wrote to him about 2 decades ago. It's called The Measure of a Man. The measure of a man cannot be made with a ruler, a calculator, or a scale. The measure of a man does not render itself in the square footage of a house, the horsepower of a car, or the digits of a bank statement. It doesn't present itself for assessment in a paycheck, it does not make itself apparent on a timesheet, and it does not open itself for examination in the halls of a club or the chamber of a court. The measure of a man cannot be revealed on a scorecard or a trophy shelf or a safe. It cannot be recorded on a diploma or captured in a photograph. It cannot be validated through hollow accolades, through well-written greeting card text, or through hard-fought promotions. The measure of a man is not subject to routine cataloging or counting. It requires a much more subtle and much more complex calculation. Like a stone dropped into a still pond of action and emotion, a man cannot be measured by his pure size, his outward sheen, the naked volume of his splash. Instead, a man is measured by the quality of the ripples that emanate from his entry, by the number of lives touched by his efforts, by the number of spirits lifted by his countenance, by the degree of admiration earned by his decisions, by the volume of support offered by his counsel, by the extent of the compassion, the mercy, the understanding, and the wisdom exhibited by his judgments, by the weight of respect and deference shown by others to his opinions, by the frequency of his laughter, by the amplitude of his caring, by the scope of his commitment, and by the depth of his love. As the ripples expand, multiply, collide, and evolve, as they advance and extend well beyond the stone's reach and control, the measure of a man carefully reveals itself in the loving gaze of a wife, the warm embrace of a brother, the thankful touch of a parent, the gleeful smile of a grandchild, the deep chuckle of a friend, the deferential ear of a colleague, and the heartfelt words of a child. Alan's stone still emanates, and the ripples he sent forth decades, months, weeks ago still echo through the world around him, behind and in front of him. Yet the heavenly view of Alan's pond leaves little doubt that his reach was long, his impact wide, and his love and respect deep and resonant. The measure of Alan has been and continues to be taken. It can be seen in the eyes, the smiles, the tears, and the faces of this room. Jodi, Alyssa, the boys, and I will miss you, Dad. We love you.
Very beautiful, very moving. And now we're going to hear from Alan's stepdaughter, Renee, and her husband, Joe, along with their children and Alan's treasured grandchildren, Blair and Blake.
Hi, thank you. I'm Renee Hillinger, Ava's daughter and Alan's stepdaughter. Thank you all for being here today. I see family and loved ones have come from near and far, from coast to coast, and your presence here with us today means the world to us. Alan came into our lives when I was 15 years old. Mom and Alan met in January of 1993 at Gibson's Steakhouse in Chicago. It was love at first sight. I met Alan 2 weeks later on Valentine's Day. After only knowing one another for 6 weeks, and just 2 weeks after I had met him, they were engaged to be married. This was much too fast for my liking. I told Mom that I liked Alan, but that didn't mean she needed to marry him right away. They married in June of '93, and in less than 6 months of having met, they were on their honeymoon in Aspen. Alan moved from his bachelor pad in Lincoln Park to be with us in the western suburbs so that I wouldn't have to change schools. Thank you. Before that, it had just been Mom and me. I know he loved my mom because I certainly did not make it easy on either one of them. I kept things spicy with my rebellious teenager behavior. At one point, Alan told Mom he had forgotten about teenagers. Some of my favorite memories with Alan include commuting into the city during summers when I was home from college working internships, often for Mr. B. I most certainly had to be ready to leave on time. We'd listen to his news radio show and then smooth jazz on WNUA. And then he'd have me recite my daily affirmations into the mirror so that I would boost my confidence for the real world. We went on many wonderful family vacations, mostly to his happy place in Fort Lauderdale. But my favorite family trip with Alan, hands down, was my cousin Jill and John's wedding in Napa. We spent so much quality time as a family together, sipping wine and going around the table in great conversation. And finally, my favorite version of Alan is him as grandpa to his 4 grandchildren, Jackson, Ryan, Blair, and Blake. He absolutely lit up whenever he talked about them. Grandpa had a gift for making babies laugh, hosting elaborate tea parties, and playing the eager student in a classroom taught by Miss Blair and Mr. Blake. At sporting events, he was always the most passionate cheerleader, and afterward, he'd have some guidance and pointers to share, win or lose, preferably a win. Mom and I were blessed with 33 and a half years of wonderful memories like these with Alan. His voice, his wisdom, and his love are now part of who I am. Although I still very strongly feel him with us, we do miss him dearly, and we thank God for every moment that we had together.
Thanks, Renee. That was really nice. My name's Joe Hillinger, Renee's husband, Alan's son-in-law. I think everyone will appreciate this little story about Alan. I suspect most of you have experienced something similar. In early June, Alan was in the hospital. Blair, his granddaughter, and I visited him right after her first golf lesson. He perked up the moment we arrived, but told us he couldn't talk much. Naturally, the first thing we did was tell him all about Blair's golf lesson. And needless to say, he was very excited to talk about that. We moved on to other topics for a few minutes, but before long, Alan pivoted right back to Blair's golf swing. He had her stand up and show him how she was swinging, then walk through a few tips step by step. We went back and forth like that for a while, other topics, then golf, then back again. It was like a comedy routine. Alan kept insisting he couldn't talk much, and then he would launch right back into an animated golf lesson. That was Alan. You could always tell when he was on a subject he loved by how excited he got. The favorites were golf, giving advice, sports, or talking about the grandkids. He was so passionate about the people and things he cared about, and we miss him dearly. I've told the kids, and plan to apply that to myself, that the best way to honor his memory is to remember the lessons he taught all of us. This way he will always be there guiding us.
Thank you, Renee and Joe. And Ava, that must have been some steak at Gibson. Next, it's my honor to call upon one of Alan's longtime friends, Michael Freitas, to... Oh, the grandkids first, okay. I thought you were coming up together.
Hello, my name is Blair Hillinger, and this is my brother Blake Hillinger, and Alan is our grandpa. However, we call him Grandpa Moo. We call him that because when I was a baby, he used to make animal sounds to entertain me when I was sad, and no sound he made me smile like when he mooed, hence the name Grandpa Moo. He knew exactly how to make me smile. Another great memory I have with him is when we celebrate Hanukkah together. After we light the menorah, we choreograph a little dance paired with a song about Hanukkah to perform in front of the family. I will always cherish these memories forever. I love you, Grandpa.
Very nice. And now Michael.
This is a eulogy I hope never to write, and never thought I'd have to write. I really thought until the very end that my close friend, who was larger than life, always had true grit, been ultra fit, ultra competitive, and ultra tenacious, would live forever. And he definitely wasn't meant to be in Chicago on the day he passed. Alan, Ava, Betsy, and I were supposed to be cruising that day up the fjords of Norway. I met Alan 66 years ago during fraternity rush week at IIT. Me, a poor kid from the South Side, and Alan, a poor kid from the North Side, both on scholarships that allowed us to be there. We both pledged AE Pi, and it quickly became obvious that we were part of a great group of lifelong brothers, many of whom are here today, and many more are streaming today's service. It also became quickly obvious that Alan and I would be lifelong close friends. Alan's competitive nature, which we've heard this morning, was obvious to me from the beginning as he led our pledge class and the fraternity in athletics. AE Pi at the time was always a leader in academics, but until our class was second tier in sports. And while Alan was a quiet leader behind the scenes in our fraternity house governance, he was always the leader on the athletic field. He led our pledge class basketball team, and he wanted me to mention the name of it, the freshman science majors, to a championship, and over our 4 years, went on to lead AE Pi to championships in all the major interfraternity sports. Besides being a fraternity brother and a good friend during those early years, Alan also had a major impact on me in two ways. First, he was influential in my changing majors from electrical to industrial engineering, where I flourished. And most importantly, in the spring of 1963, when all of us pending seniors were looking for our last and most important summer jobs, I had been offered a job working for Oscar Mayer for $85 a week. When I overheard Alan talking at lunch about his management training internship at Illinois Bell for $105 a week. Well, $20 a week was a big deal in those days, and I quickly applied. Unfortunately, there were no internships left, but they liked me and said they'd pay me the $105 a week and just teach me how to be a pole-climbing telephone man. I loved it. I made that my career, and the rest is history for me, and I've always given Alan the credit for pointing me in that right direction. Alan's competitive nature continued after IIT. You all know he was a superbly successful intellectual property litigator, but I was always amazed at his ability to excel in everything he did, and you've heard that today as many times. He barely knew how to pick up a tennis racket in college, but he quickly became an A player. We played doubles together every week for years, and in fact, we won the spring 1980 East Bank Club doubles championship. He picked up golf as an adult and quickly became a very low handicap golfer, playing regularly almost to the end. He was even a very competitive amateur karaoke singer, which many of you know. While I never heard him at a club, he wowed Betsy and I at dinner just a year ago. We were discussing our favorite songs, and I mentioned Mack the Knife. Well, on the spur of the moment, Alan sang the entire song word for word, which was basically impossible. And I think he did it even than Bobby Darin. Our friendship continued through the years, but Betsy and I became very close to Alan and Ava over the last 20 years or so, especially the last 10, meeting for dinner regularly, often at Capri Ristorante, which was the site of our last outing together. We were, in fact, planning our first long trip together last month, a week-long cruise to Norway. We booked it 4 months before his initial diagnosis. After the diagnosis, we were, of course, unsure it would happen. But Alan fought and rallied, as all of you know, so well that late in this past March, we paid the balance on the cruise. We were so amazed at how well he was doing that we thought he was going to be that rare 1% survivor. But of course, we never went. Alan has always been surrounded by a loving family and loving friends who you're hearing from today. I feel very fortunate to have been part of his life, part of his family, both in good times, actually always great times, and even in those more recent not-so-great times. I'll always treasure our memories and will continue to honor his memory through our loving friendship with Ava.
Michael, that was wonderful. And now it's my honor to call upon Alan's daughter-in-law, Alyssa, who will read remarks for one of Alan's most trusted colleagues, Michael Levinson.
Michael Levinson was Dad's longtime friend and law partner. Unfortunately, Michael could not be here today, but he prepared some remarks about Dad that I am very happy to read on his behalf. I never expected to be here remembering my partner and friend, Alan Unikel. Alan was such a commanding personality and so in control that I assumed he would live forever. But alas, here we are. I first met Alan in 1987 when my 2-man law firm merged with Alan's 7-man law firm, resulting in the behemoth that continued under the name Alexander Unikel, Zalua, and Tenenbaum. I was drawn to Alexander Unikel because of Alan. I was 32 years old, having practiced for all of 7 years at that point. Alan was 10 years my senior and was exactly the kind of lawyer I aspired to be: smart, self-assured, and committed to excellence. Plus, he didn't just litigate, he tried cases. In 1989, Alexander Unikel was experiencing what I will call senior partner problems, and that led Alan and me, along with Mary Lou Whitaker and Jean DeSanto, to join Seyfarth Shaw, Fairweather, and Geraldson, a prominent, mostly labor and employment firm. Seyfarth was interested in building a strong litigation practice, and Alan became the backbone of that effort. He established Seyfarth's patent litigation practice and became chair of Seyfarth's National Litigation Practice Group. Trial judges respected Alan and saw him as a valuable resource, not just as an advocate, but as someone who could teach them. I often saw judges turn to Alan for guidance on a complex patent or engineering issue. Opposing counsel rarely had or even strived to have a level of understanding about the facts or the law that Alan had. Most trial lawyers fly at 60,000 feet. Alan worked at ground level. Through carefully crafted witness examinations, Alan educated the jury and the judge on the often complicated facts and principles involved. Alan had a marvelous knack for creating the simplest drawings or charts or schematics that reduced dense, convoluted patents and years of torturous patent office history into their bare essence. Alan was also the master of analogy, drawing parallels from cases to everyday life that inevitably led to one to see the situation exactly as Alan wanted you to see it. Whenever I was at a loss for how to frame an issue, I went to Alan for an analogy. If the old comedian Maury Amsterdam was the human joke machine, then Alan was the human analogy machine. Some would say that Alan was tough on associates. That is really rather unfair to Alan. He was tough on everyone. Associates, partners, expert, local counsel, even clients. It goes back to his commitment to excellence. In whatever your little corner of the case might be, you better investigate, think through, know, and understand the details. Alan knew that victory lay in the details. But as tough as Alan was in trial preparation, he was a complete softie when it came to the holiday party. Alan sponsored the annual IP holiday party even long after he was no longer running the group. His affection for his team was on display. Alan relished planning the party and penning songs that only he could write and sing, such as Gene the Party Planner. That he sang to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. If you could tell a joke or take a joke, if you could sing, or better yet, if you couldn't, Alan had a soft spot for you. It was great fun. And in the pressure cooker of law firm life, it was cathartic to see Alan, who was always so on, focus with such delight on a clever lyric, a bad joke, a catchy tune, and a good time. Alan truly enjoyed explaining and teaching, which served him well both as a lawyer and as a friend. Over the years, Alan tutored me not only on legal matters, but also on all sorts of other topics that were important in the moment, such as preferred stocks, annuities, the best travel destinations, books, and the best fractional ownership programs, to name a few. I envied Alan's joy of life. He was focused and committed as a lawyer, but he was also able to let go, whether singing at the holiday party, riding in a ruckus party limo to an Andre Bocelli concert, or requiring when we were on trial in Yakima that the team go early to Yakima Avenue on Saturday night to see all of the hot rods and classic cars cruise the avenue. Alan truly enjoyed the people he worked with and all that the world offers. He was a wonderful mentor, teacher, and friend, and I will continue to aspire to be just like him.
Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you, Michael Levinson. Now, another one of Alan's closest friends, David Glickson, has some words to share with us.
Okay, compared to Michael, I'm a new kid on the block. I've only known Alan for 63 years. I first met Alan when he was dating Barbara, a family friend at the University of Wisconsin, and I became fond of Alan immediately. As you've heard today, Alan really had it all. He was a terrific lawyer, a first-class athlete, a wonderful husband, father, grandfather, and brother. A couple of things that have not been mentioned. He was so handsome, and he was even a great dancer. Yeah, absolutely. To me, he was all of those things, but he was also my travel companion, my dining partner, my fellow political griper, golf partner, and golf instructor, probably on every hole. And I must admit that in my case, he was a total abject failure, but that's probably the only area that occurred. But more than anything, Alan was my devoted friend in many ways. My rabbi, not professional rabbi, informal rabbi. I trusted his judgment completely. I could bring to him the most personal and confidential matters, or simply ask for his perspective on a difficult situation, and I always knew I would receive thoughtful, honest, and wise advice. A couple of weeks ago, when I was driving to visit Alan in hospice, I found myself thinking how ironic it was that he was exactly the person I would have called to ask to how to handle a visit like this. What should I say? What subject should I raise? How much emotion should I show? Is there room for humor? These are the kinds of questions and situations that I always turn to Alan. And for the first time, I couldn't. That moment brought home to me how much I had already begun to miss him and how deeply I always will. Several months ago, Alan and Ava came across a letter that I had written to Alan in 1993, shortly after their wedding. They asked me to read it today. Alan, this is not a eulogy, turns out it is, but just a brief note to let you know of Marlene and my tremendous sense of satisfaction, enjoyment, and general good feelings in joining with you and your family in celebrating your wedding and birthday. I deeply value your professional and personal advice and counseling, your friendship, and your golf tips, even then. I appreciate your willingness to share with me certain of your questions and concerns. I have often admired your consistent positive outlook on virtually all matters, which, although you may not realize it, contrast sharply with the cynicism and carping which frequently abounds among many of my other friends and acquaintances. Alan was a real optimist at all times. Your brushes with the exercise of your free spirit are certainly refreshing and appear to have had no adverse effect on your basic sense of values. You have made a wonderful move in your marriage to Ava, and Marlene and I look forward to spending time with both of you in a crowd of less than 50 people. Alan, you are certainly as deserving as anyone I know of many years of continued contentment, success, and enjoyment of life, which he certainly did. Everything I wrote in that letter remained true for the ensuing 33 years, right up until the day that Alan passed away. He never stopped being the same kind, wise, loyal, generous person I was so fortunate to call my friend. May his memory be a blessing.
Thank you, David, for those very touching words, and I'm honored to be your informal rabbi. And finally, it's my honor to call upon grandsons Jackson and Ryan to share some memories with us.
My grandpa Alan was a collector. He was never loud about it. And in fact, it's a title that I only learned to associate with him slowly and over time. Inkwells, artwork, birthday cards, photographs, singing stuffed animals, and tchotchkes from all over the globe. In his and my grandma Ava's beautiful home, I would always find trinkets, new and old, tucked away in corners or proudly displayed on the hearth, and I would ask about them, what it was, where it came from, what it represented. Now, by the 10th, 20th, 100th time, one might have suspected that there would be a lapse in memory. After all, who remembers every single thing they've ever purchased or been given? But not my grandpa. It was easy for him, like taking a breath, to tell us what was so special about that exact item. He was able to do this, not because he had a photographic memory, though there were times I was almost certain he did. He could do this because each one told a story. And when it came to stories, my grandpa was a steel trap. Every inkwell was a grand adventure. Every sculpture was a friendship formed. Every singing animal was an unforgettable holiday with family. It wasn't about the stuff. It never was. It was about the beauty and the life that surrounded it. Of everything he taught me, that is a lesson I will cherish forever.
In life, we all wear many hats. Parent, sibling, friend, colleague, student, many others. Some of these hats are inherent. We're born into them. Life requires us to wear them. Others, however, are hats we choose to wear. For my grandpa Alan, there was one hat he always seemed to be wearing, even if that meant he was wearing two hats at once. Specifically, the hat I'm referring to was his coach hat. Whether on the golf course, the school basketball court, the stock market, the law, or many other places, Grandpa consistently knew how to be a cheerleader when the team was winning, a pragmatist when there was a better play to run, a tough cookie when the game started to get away, and everything in between. So while I'll remember my grandpa for all the amazing qualities and memories everyone else has shared today, I'll also think of him whenever I find myself wearing my own coach's hat in life. It's certainly one he wore with both ease and care. Lastly, I'd be remiss not to thank my dad, Rob, for being an amazing father to me, Jackson, and many others who have come through our lives. I know Grandpa was and is very proud of you in many ways, but how you wear your dad hat is certainly towards the top. We love you. To conclude today's service, we'd love to share a video that our family put together, highlighting some of our favorite images and memories of our grandpa, dad, brother, husband, and every other hat he wore.
Oh, the shark, babe, has such teeth, dear, and it shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife has old Mack Heath, babe, and it keeps it out of sight. You know when that shark bites with its teeth, babe, scarlet billows start to spread. Fancy gloves, though, wears old Mack Heath, babe, so there's never a trace of red. Now on the sidewalk, ooh, Sunday morning, lies a body just oozing life. Can someone...
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you. Pardon the way that I stare. There's nothing else to compare. The sight of you leaves me weak. There are no words left to speak. But if you feel like I feel, I'm too sick.
Paesi che non ho mai veduto e vissuto con te, adesso sì vivrò con te, partirò su navi per mari che io lo so. Con te io li vivrò, con te partirò. Su navi per mari che io lo so, non esistono più. Con te io li vivrò, con te partirò.
Like all of you, I was incredibly moved by the memories and the video. And I want to share with you the words of Father Michael Judge. Father Judge was the chief chaplain to the New York City Fire Department, and he perished in 9/11, saving lives. And before he died, he wrote to his friends and he told us, hang on to your memories, hang on to your moments, hang on to each other. Hang on to your memories of Alan. Hang on to the precious moments that you spent with him. And if I could take a little rabbinic privilege, you're a great family, personal family of friends. The best gift that you can give to Alan's memory is to hang on to each other. I would now ask the family to please rise for a moment. El mole rachamim shochem bamromim, hamitzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina, b'ma'alot kedoshim u'toharim k'zohar, harakia masirim et nishmat, Alan Unikel, shehalach li'olamo. El mole rachamim, O exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Alan Unikel, who has gone to his eternal home. O merciful one, we ask that he find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let all of us say, Amen. And you may be seated. Our memorial prayer of the Kaddish, its origins are very mysterious. Kaddish meaning holiness. Angels are said to have brought it down from heaven. But if you were to read the English translation of our mourner's prayer, there is absolutely no mention of death in the Kaddish. Therefore, it causes us to focus on the blessings of life. And Alan was certainly a blessing in our life. So I would ask everyone to please rise, and all who can to join together on the back of your program books in our traditional mourner's prayer, Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmad divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman koriv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach li'olam olamei olmayo. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'olma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the good Lord who makes peace in the high heavens grant peace and comfort to all of us who remember and who mourn Alan, and as one united family, let us answer, Amen. And you may be seated.
Friends, our service here is concluded. Immediately following our service, we'll be having a luncheon, a gathering, a celebration of life just across the lobby. And just to be absolutely clear, there will be involved nash, and that's food. And that's how we show our comfort and we show our love to the family. And so just in a few moments, I'll invite everybody to join them there. Memorial contributions and Alan's memory can be made to Wellness House. That information is available on the service folder you received on the way in. And for those who have not had a chance to have one, they're available on the way out. And for those who are online, that information is available on the funeral home website as well. At this time, I could ask everyone to please rise one last time as we escort the family across to begin the luncheon. We're to give them a minute or two just to be settled, and then we'll start by welcoming everybody over to join in the luncheon.